Thank you.
I want a hug.
I'll get out. It's not a Pulver conference without the hugs. Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Osborn. I'm the director of social media at NBC News. I've been coming to Jeff's events for a couple years. My first was 2 years ago at the 140 Characters Conference with Ann Curry and Rick Sanchez, and we talked about how social was transforming news at the time, and kind of that storm has only continued to develop, and I'm hoping to kind of give you all an update today. Before I get started, I'm just curious, I know probably most of you are marketers. Are any of you journalists or work within news orgs? If you could just kind of yell out what news orgs you're from or where you write. I guess we'll just do a couple of them. Okay. Cool. Let's do one more over here. Anybody a journalist? Okay. Well, the humanization of news orgs, I think, is a particularly interesting space because the only way to scale what's currently being called social, which hopefully someday will just be the internet, is through the collective. So you're essentially empowering, hundreds, if not thousands, of employees to all of a sudden, use these tools and communicate directly to the audience. And for news orgs, that's a particularly challenging idea. Whether it's print, you're going through your editors, or if on television, your spots are going to be presented through your anchors and correspondents. So this idea of empowering the collective organization has been, a challenging one, and I think it's one that a lot of us have responded to, and it's something that we kind of continue to struggle with and also, slowly figure out. NBC's taken kind of a unique approach. I was a producer at Today and kind of used social pretty organically around the show. When I was there, had gone to South by Southwest and met a bunch of the Twitter guys in 2006, created a Today Show Twitter handle to what I thought was going to visualize the conversation around the show at the time, and possibly to be used on air. The idea never really went anywhere, but I stuck to it and woke up each morning and kind of live tweeted the show, and slowly but surely built a community around it, and my colleagues kind of said, let's figure out how to do more of this with our other shows. So since then, again, have taken on this role, and originally I reported directly to our SVP of marketing, and the idea of kind of, editorial meeting marketing is relatively new, I guess, within news orgs. Brands is traditionally a bad word within newsrooms. But it's been a necessary change. Journalists need to learn how to market their stories, and marketers need to learn how to think like journalists. So slowly but surely, we've been creating something new. At times, I feel like a man with no country, I guess, within the organization, in that I'm serving all of these different stakeholders. I have one person on my team right now who's actually our community manager. His name is Anthony Quintano, and you should check him out online. What's interesting is that when we were actually hiring for that job, we struggled with which traits it would be, and we decided on him because he's actually someone who's a DSLR photographer, can really create some beautiful content, but at the same time is comfortable engaging and responding to reactions to our content throughout the day. I enjoyed the last community managers panel. That is definitely a challenging role, and I think it's one that's actually here to stay within news. So where we are today is we just posted a job for a social media editor to join our team. Our HR rep actually said that I think we set a record for how many resumes we received within an hour of posting that job. And I think it's exciting to see our team grow, but I also worry that, are we building a silo around social within our org? And as I said, the only way to achieve scale within social, or what is currently being called social, hopefully will just be the internet someday, is through the collective. So we've created guidelines. Everyone within our organization is now free to use the social web. We keep a staff list on NBC News. We have over 250 people tweeting in real time. You can check that out off of our NBC News page. We have a separate account for our NBC News PR account, which is really active and I think engages throughout the day. We have a pretty robust presence on Facebook. We have created a partnership with them around politics and Meet the Press, which I'm excited about. We'll be doing a debate together in January. And we're also exploring relationships with other partners. So, in closing, I kind of don't want to ramble on, but again, it's this idea of, empowering the masses, but also educating the individuals. And unfortunately, as this transformation has happened so quickly, there's been this pressure to do that overnight. And luckily, I think we have responded in a way that, has met the change that is social and the web, and reinventing a brand. But what's consistent is that, what has always made NBC News great is the people behind the brand. And, social is just another way for us to introduce the audience to those people. And we have, we've had a lot of, or I wouldn't say a lot of bumps, but we have had a few bumps where I've talked about, with individuals as far as, what our guidelines are and where the personal meets professional. You're going to hear a lot today about how, the personal is the professional, and we believe that at NBC News. You have one identity, but to a journalist, that's a particularly challenging idea in that, whether it's protecting your sources or, not necessarily wanting to put your family out there when you're, pissing people off covering a story, it's something we all need to think about, and it has a lot of unintended consequences. So it's something I think about regularly. So I'm sorry if I didn't have any slides or any fancy presentation, but that's kind of where my head is at today. And does anybody have any questions or any thoughts? No? Oh, you got one?
Yes. Okay. So,
Katie.
yes, I have a question about, so the team that you're setting up, you've got a community manager.
Yep.
And then now you're going to have a social media writer.
Right.
How's that going to...
So the community manager is going to work closely with our communications and marketing team, and our social media editor will report within the editorial structure.
And that's for the news?
That's for within the news division, yep. So I represent NBC News. So we work within the bigger architecture of NBC Universal and Comcast. So if there's one back here.
So these 250 people you have tweeting from NBC News,
Right.
is it basically their personal tweeting, or is it all under the guise of NBC News?
So we encourage one account, not to set up separate professional accounts. And actually, we've tried something where even within people's avatars on their personal accounts, like my handle is Rozzy, I have a peacock on me. And it's this idea of transparently saying where you work, particularly within a news org, is very important. And we've kind of learned collectively where the personal does meet the professional, but it is just one account. So it's a learned skill. It's you would never want to compromise any kind of beat that you're covering. But at the same time, if I want to talk about maybe a sporting event or a movie where I think it's fair to, express an opinion, I definitely do that from my personal account. And I think the organizations that get more comfortable with that idea of letting their people, be themselves online are going to win in the long term. Because, I think it was Dave Weiner who said Twitter just feels like a dress rehearsal for, what the internet may become. And the more you try to not educate people and not empower them to be themselves, the more long-term you're going to cause problems. The idea of identity, maybe 10 years ago, if there was something damaging about you, if there was one little piece of you on the internet, that was all people know. But now if you can build up over time kind of a collective intelligence around that brand, if something does bad happen, I think people are going to be more forgiving. You're going to have this back history of, look at this person actually being responsible for all these years, and yeah, they may have done that one stupid thing, but it's a real evolution of kind of the way we look at organization and the way we look at journalists too, I think.
So a few weeks ago, Liz Heron from social media editor,
Love Liz Heron, yep.
she said that my job isn't going to be around in 5 years.
Right.
What's your take on that?
I think that she's right in a lot of ways. I think we all will be social media editors, but you will need, 1 to 3 people to, and obviously I have a stake in this maybe, even though I could easily go back and, or not easily, but maybe go back and be a producer someday. I think that you will need, a small team organizing either whether it's partnerships and kind of a larger organizational strategy. But I get what she was saying, and I think to an extent that is true, but I think it may be a little literal. And also, 5 years is going to happen faster than you think, and you'd be surprised at how far a lot of traditional orgs have to go within social. Right. Well, Ann Curry has been somebody who, through her reporting in the Middle East, has used social to, reach a new audience there. There's always, language barriers and verification barriers and the challenges that come with, international reporting. And good journalism will always be good journalism, no matter what platform it's on. But I'd say that there's no doubt that, we've been able to expand internationally and reach audiences that we wouldn't have had before social. Let's take one more, and then we'll wrap up. I thought there was one more down here. Maybe not. Oh, yeah, over here.
How are you responding to more recent phenomena of specific journalists that are garnering quite a huge Twitter fan base, and the fact that they're actually breaking news?
So we've talked about this a lot, and we actually don't have a policy in writing, and hopefully we'll make our policies public soon, but we don't have a policy that says don't break news on Twitter. But actually, the whole debate around breaking news on Twitter is kind of silly, because if you are a journalist working within a larger organization and you would put a scoop out there blindly without kind of alerting the larger group, you don't really understand the business model that is news today. But at the same time, there are always going to be exceptions in that, when Richard Engel, I think when he was in Somalia, his, technical setup was very challenging, I guess you could say, at times. And there was a period where some of his tweets were actually hitting Twitter before, some of us knew about them. So, there are situations where we will actually break news. When Ann Curry interviewed Ahmadinejad, he had said the hikers will be released in a few days. We went through our standards group, and that was actually broken on Twitter before it was seen anywhere else online. So the whole debate to me strikes me as kind of silly, because in the end, if you understand the business model and you understand how a larger news organization works, to be a single journalist, giving away your beat on a Twitter feed is ridiculous. But at the same time, you can't create a blanket policy that says, don't break news on Twitter. And, to plug our new Chief Digital Officer, Vivian Schiller, she's kind of instilled that philosophy with us also. So. That's about it. I appreciate your time. It's always fun to come hang out with this great community. One other plug, I haven't plugged anything, but mosaic art, or hashtag art, which is something I learned about at 140 conference 2 years ago through Mark Fishman and a partner of Jeff, Eli. We're using around the Today Show this week for Matt's travels with Where in the World. If you use the hashtag WhereIsMatt, you'll be part of a picture clue. It's kind of a cool experience, and it grew out of this community. So thank you. Yep.